Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So as you guys know that I'm making a British literature series where I'll delve about each age with detail so that you get to understand about the whole British literature concept here, and also it will help you to understand about what the British literature history consists of, and it will make your journey to the British literature very much easier. So, in this series, we are exploring the rich and diverse history of the English literature, one era at a time. So, today's lecture focuses on the Commonwealth period, which is a fascinating chapter that bridges the gap between the tumultuous Caroline age and the lively Restoration era. So, if you have been following this series, you will know that we have already covered the Jacobean and the Caroline age in the previous section. So, if you are new here, so please don't worry. You can find those videos on my channel to catch up with this series and to better understand the British literature. So, I hope this lecture will continue our deep dive into how British literature has evolved through historical, cultural, and political upheavals. So stay tuned as we unravel the literary brilliance of the Commonwealth period. So, before we dive into the Commonwealth period, let's quickly recap the two literary periods that preceded it, the Jacobean age and the Caroline age. So, these eras are crucial to understand the transition that came into the Commonwealth period. So, about the Jacobean age, which was from 1603 to 1625, it was named after the King James I, and this period followed the Elizabethan age. So, it was a time of darker, more introspective literature as compared to the optimism of the Elizabethan era. So, poetry leaned towards metaphysical themes with writers like John Donne, Ben Jonson, and more writers. And about the Caroline age, that was preceded by the Jacobean age, spans from 1625 to 1649. So this period coincides with the reign of King Charles I, and literature reflected the growing tension between the monarchy and the parliament, eventually leading to the English Civil War. So poets like Robert Herrick, Richard Lovelace, Thomas Carew, they were the part of this Caroline age, and their work celebrates the themes of love, loyalty, beauty in their work. So drama declined due to the political instability, but prose flourished with works like Thomas Hobbes' works, which sets the stage for philosophical and political thought. So these two periods transitioned English literature from the high drama and optimism of the Renaissance to the restrained, reflective, and politically charged writings of the Commonwealth era. Now let's explore how this shift fully unfolded the Commonwealth period. So, the Commonwealth period aligns with a critical chapter in the British history, that is the Interregnum, which began after the execution of the King Charles I in 1649, and it ended with the restoration of Charles II in 1660. So during this time, England was declared a republic that was led by Oliver Cromwell and his Puritan government. So now, what does this mean for literature? Let's understand. Well, Puritanism heavily influenced on cultural norms, leading to strict censorship and focus on religious and moral writings. So theaters were shut down and entertainment was largely suppressed. But despite all these challenges, this period produced some of the remarkable works and set the stage for the vibrant Restoration period. So before knowing about writers and their works, we must know to which age do they belong, and we must know about the history of that particular age so that it will help us to understand more about in which context the writer was writing and how the works were being shaped for that particular period. So, to understand the literature of this era, we need to grasp its historical context. So with the monarchy, that we learned that the monarchy was abolished and the Commonwealth government emphasized the Puritan values. And these Puritan values also, they prioritize the discipline, austerity and piety. So public theaters were closed, as I already mentioned. The public theaters were closed, and imaginative literature was being discouraged at this period of time. However, writers of this time used prose, poetry, and pamphlets, most importantly, pamphlets, to engage with the political and the religious debates of that particular day or particular period. So, after learning about the historical context of this Commonwealth period, let's focus on some of the key themes that we'll find in this period or in this period's works. So, during period's literature literature reflected the theme of morality, religion, and political ideology. Let's break it down for a better understanding. So, first, religious and political pamphlets. So these religious and political pamphlets were the most prominent genres which serve as a platform for the Puritan beliefs. Next, we have poetry. Poetry still thrived, but in a much restrained form, but still it focuses on personal and religious meditation. And now, if you talk about the prose dominated in this period with writers like John Milton and Thomas Hobbes to produce some significant works. Unfortunately, drama suffered the most. As we know, in Elizabethan drama, in Elizabethan period, drama peaked at that period of time. But unfortunately, while we move forward to the Commonwealth period, the drama suffered the most. With theaters being closed, as I already said, the theaters were being closed from 1642 to 1660, which led to the suppressment of the entertainment. So drama suffered the most because of it, and playwrights had a little more to a little to contribute than the previous time, marking a sharp decline in this genre. So, as we learned about the historical context, the key themes of the literature which is dominated in this period, the prominent genres that dominated this period, and now it's time to learn about some of the writers who kind of led this period, who kind of provided us with their writings about what happened in this period. So, if you talk about some of the key writers of this period, we are first going to count John Milton into this. And John Milton was born in 1608 and he died in 1674. So, he was considered a major literary figure of this particular period. He was known for his prose writings during this time, such as the Areopagitica, which was published in 1644. And this particular work was a powerful plea for the freedom of the press. And if you talk about the tenure of the kings and the magistrate, which was published in 1649, this particular work justifies the execution of the Charles the First. So now if you talk about his other works like poetry, Milton's latter masterpieces like Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, they emerged in the post-Commonwealth period, but we can see that it still reflects his ideological struggles. So we'll learn more about John Milton, where I'll make a particular video on John Milton and we'll discuss about his works. Even I'll make video on John Milton's particular works. But as of now, you need to understand who are the key writers and why their writings dominated this period, and some minor details about their writings. So, after John Milton, there comes the Andrew Marvell. So, Andrew Marvell was born in 1621 and he died in 1678. It's important to remember the birth date and the death year of writers, because questions are being asked from based on the birth years and in which year they died. So, it's important to learn about these birth dates and date dates. So, Andrew Marvell was basically mostly he was considered as a metaphysical poet, but he was also considered as a politician. So, as he was considered a politician, we're going to know about him based and his works based on this period only. So his most notable work, that is an Horatian ode upon Cromwell's return from Ireland. So this work skillfully balances the admiration for Lord Cromwell with subtle royalist sympathy. So this blended the political commentary with poetic elegance. So this was one of the most famous work of Andrew Marvell, and these questions was most asked often in the exam, that this particular work belonged to which period. So you need to remember that Andrew Marvell's and Horatian ode upon Cromwell's return from Ireland was based was all about the Lord Cromwell, and this work was published in the Commonwealth period. Next, we have Thomas Hobbes. So Thomas Hobbes was born in 1588 and he died in 1679. So he was a great philosopher, and he was also considered as a politician as well. But most importantly, we know him as a great philosopher. So he was the author of Leviathan, which was published in 1651. So this work, Leviathan, explored the human nature, governance, and the social contract. So this influenced the intellectual climate of the Commonwealth period. So this Leviathan work explored the human nature, governance, and need for a strong central authority, profoundly influencing the political thought. So as we know that in this Commonwealth period, the political upheaval was happening mostly. So these are some of the writers who was mostly dominated this period, and their works had shaped the Commonwealth period's literature. So, as I said earlier, that you can see the decline in drama in this period. So, one of the most striking features of this period was the decline of the drama. Theatres were being closed by the Puritans, who viewed them as immoral. So playwriting virtually disappeared, and it wasn't until the Restoration period that drama saw a revival. So the public theatres were closed from 1642 to 1660 until the Restoration period came into being. Drama saw a decline due to this Puritan disapproval of the entertainment, of the whole idea of entertainment. So playwright resumed only at the Restoration that happened in 1660. So why should we learn about this Commonwealth period? As we know, this was often an overlooked era of the British literature. So, why we should know why this Commonwealth period is important. So, despite its restriction, this era was pivotal in shaping the English intellectual and cultural landscape. It laid the groundwork for later literary movements, and it also provided a space for the critical debates on governance, morality, and freedom, as we read from the Thomas Hobbes' work, Andrew Marvell, and John Milton's work. So this transition phase set the stage for the Restoration period, which burst forth with renewed creative energy. So that's it for our today's lecture. The Commonwealth period may not have been as vibrant as the other literary eras, but its contribution to prose, poetry, and philosophy, we can say, was undeniable. So it reminds us how literature can endure and adapt even in the face of political and cultural restriction. So if you guys enjoyed this exploration of the Commonwealth period, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the English literature. And let me know in the comment section below what era or which writer you'd like me to cover up next. Until then, happy learning and keep exploring the world of the wars. I'll see you all in the next video.